Hey everybody, it's Erin Reed and I'm here with Dyan Reaveley and we are in the Ranger booth and she's going to show us some cool stuff. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to span this around and we are going to get started with her cool business stuff.
Cool.
Alright, go for it.
Hi everybody, first of all, I'm going to just go through my paints. My paints have had a facelift. Instead of the jars, I've put them in little bottles, okay? One of the reasons is so they're portable, so I can, move around. They're half the size, so they have an ounce. They look tiny, but they have half of what was in the jars in there. So we've changed the paints, and I'm releasing 12 new colours, but these 6 are the ones that I really want to talk about. These are my cocktail range. Oh no, that's not right. Hang on, that one isn't. That one is. There we go. I thought that was strange. So these are my cools, these are my warms. So this is Lemon Drop. This is Sour Appletini, this is Blue Hawaiian, this one is the Strawberry Daiquiri, Mango Punch and Tropical Sangria. And these, you can see how bright they are, and you can really see in here when you look.
Whoa.
Look at the brightness in here, and there's hardly any on there. They're a bit different from all my other paints in the translucentness, but look how bright, you can just see that bouncing off. But you can see how translucent they are as well, so you can see the thing coming through. So these are my normal paints.
Somebody says makes me thirsty after you were listing all the different drinks.
Well, I already had Dirty Martini.
Right, and I added to it.
And like these paints are going in the main range, but I wanted people to identify them as well. So that's why I thought if I call them the cocktails,
yes.
But you can see, even though there's hardly any paint on, you can see the brightness of the colour in there. So awesome. That's the first thing I'm really excited about. I wanted them to stand this way up so you can see the colours. Yeah. Because if they'd have been this way, they put a sticker on and the colour's not right. There's always a different. And if you look how many greens I've got.
Yes.
I know which is which there easily.
Oh, can you tell that's kind of like my favorite colour?
Yes. Yeah, actually that's a green as well. I can tell, but if they were flipped the other way up, I wouldn't know which was which of these and which was this, because the colour, the labels are never the same. Right. So that's my first excitement that I've got there. Lots of excitement. The second excitement is my collage sheets.
Those are cool.
Finally, my collage sheets. Okay, I've been doing these for 4 years, but I keep using them, and they keep saying, "Have you done that book yet?" No, I've just used everything. So these are taken from my artwork. So there's 18 pages of ready to cut out images and different bits and pieces. There's 18 large pages, and then there's 8. Each one is reduced as well, so there's 8 of the smaller pages, and we have 2 sets. This is set 1, and you can see all the pages on the back, and this is set 2.
Wow.
Okay. And you're going to want both of them, but so here is
be honest.
This book is just totally made up from the small pack. So this is what in one of my dialogues. It was in the ready printed one. Now all these samples you'll see here are not made with these papers, because these have only just come. So if you look, can you see how shiny that is? Yeah. So that's made with a pre-production paper. And people say, "Oh, I like the shiny." You don't want shiny because you can't write on it, you can't ink it, you can't paint it. Right. So these are the real things, but all my samples are made with the, Right. So I just want to point that out to people, because I don't want people thinking it's funny. So you can see, you can just do weird stuff, and you can add your borders and your different bits and pieces. So this book was using just all the small. And then I have loads of tags. I have tons of stuff. Me. And these are my new. That's a bad one. That's "Listen, bitch, I'm being as polite as I possibly can." It's asterisked out. It's got asterisks for the American market. It's not a bad word in England.
No, it's not. A dog. It's a female dog. That's us.
No, it's in England. It's your friend. It's your.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter's one will say to her, "You've seen the old bitch lately?" And it's not nasty. When they're talking about me, So this is my favourite. I'm calling in fat tomorrow. Yes. I'd use that a lot. When you're calling in sick, I'm calling in fat. So, what's that? I'm not bossy, I just know what you shouldn't be doing. So, so those are my new stickers as well. So I'm so excited about the collage. And one of the things I'm really excited about is I can start doing it again and start teaching, because when I'm teaching stores, you have to have something to sell. And, collage is magazines and things. I can't go into a store and then So, you know, we can buy these, and they're a really good price. They're like $15, I think,
For all those images?
all of those images.
That's a
and
lot of
normally they're
images.
about $2 to $3 per
Right.
page. So normally this would be like $48
crazy.
worth. So, but I
And
wanted
the
them
cool
to
thing
be
is
reasonable.
that if you've got like the Brother Scan and Cut and you want to cut that out, you could just pop that image
Oh,
through.
that's like a machine. I wouldn't have a clue.
But some people do. They're like
I have
old
a
fashioned
pair of scissors.
No, I get that. I'm getting that. But some people like I don't know. Some people love fussy cutting.
Yeah.
Fussy
So
cutting. Fussy
those
cutting.
I'm really excited about. And then
What are these ones?
oh, these are my new postcards and canvas. Okay, and you can see the postcards here. So I always have boxes with everything in. I have boxes with collage. Wow. I have boxes with cut-out stamps in, and so I just covered it with. So this is the sticky back.
Nice.
That's nice.
The sticky back. So I've had these for ages. It's what I make my little books with, and they're just sticky. But I just thought I would just cover my boxes of stuff
all
with
your
them.
stuff.
Yeah. So these are all the new images that are on there.
Love
What
that.
else? Is that it?
I don't know. Is that it?
I have
You
no
got anything
idea.
else?
I have no idea. I think that's everything.
Awesome.
So it won't be shipping mid-February. So
Okay.
when we launch, people then get impatient. But it'll be mid-February before they're all shipping, and I can't wait to see what you do with them.
Well, that's awesome.
So thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, we're gonna do a little walking tour. Hey, gotta plug yourself while you're standing right here.
Hi,
Come on.
Lovely Jamie. Betty's been. I told you.
You gotta tell them her name. I know they don't know who you are.
Right here.
Jamie Dougherty.
And she is looking fabulous.
thank
Oh my God, look at her. She is like rocking her. And that outfit is the cutest.
Thank you.
You are looking awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. Do you have anything new and exciting on the horizon?
I'm actually teaching a workshop for Ranger tomorrow using the quick turn play. They have a new black one out, so we're going to be utilizing
black.
that. Yes, it's fun. It's so pretty. Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah,
Is it
I'll be
still
demoing tomorrow.
obviously like paintable and all that stuff
Yeah,
on
you
top
can
of it?
put any type of art medium over the top of it, and it's just fun because you can use more of that iridescent colors, and it'll show up and really pop.
Can you mix the two different kinds?
You can, yes. You can make a marbling effect. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to have a lot of fun with that tomorrow.
That is really, really cool. Well, thank you.
Yes, have fun. Have a good show.
Yes. All right. So we are going to continue to walk around. I got to grab my bags real fast so nobody
Yes.
walks off with them. And we're going to go over and I think let me grab my stuff. So we're going to go over around into Ranger, and Tim Holtz has got a crowd. So we're going to see if we can kind of do a little sneaky peeky in to Tim Holtz. There wasn't as many people over here, but let me tell you, when I first walked over, Dyan had nobody. So I spent some time with her. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to come over. You're more interesting. Hi! There's a lot of people over here, but you're right here. You what?
He's just so cute. You gotta do it, don't you?
You got to. So what do you have going on? Do you have like something going on tomorrow?
I'm here at 11 tomorrow, so I'm going to be over there.
Awesome.
Awesome. Good to see you.
For those that don't know, Simon Hurley.
Oh,
There you go. As if people don't know who that is. All right. So Tim is over there. He's very hard to get into. I mean, you should see the crowd. He's going to span back out. This is crazy. This is nuts. Probably half of you are already watching the other one live, which is why you're not watching mine right now. But that's okay. You can watch me later. So they have a lot of people. I don't think I'm going to be able to get in there. But that's okay. Maybe. Maybe. All right, I'm going to sneak in and see if I can put my camera right here.
How long? 24 hours. Yeah,
was my
so
next
24
question.
hours until it completely cures. And it's beautiful. I'm going to steal my painting off the wall. They don't like that I do.
And he walks away.
Yeah, I want that one so bad. You have no idea.
So this one, so
That
I
one is
painted this.
amazing.
I just
Look at
used,
that.
same thing, I used one of these panels, right? Drip my colors. This is Monsoon. I did a little bit of Glacier. I did some mushroom in there. Then I used the alloy. So I don't know if you can see that gold when the light hits it. You'll see those little pops of metallic show up. Did the little blower. Then I did alcohol lift ink, so that flourish. That was lift ink stamped. These little patterns, lift ink through a stencil, stamped with archival, did rub-ons, and then I did resin over the whole thing. And the resin, what shocked me, because I was new to resin, but Ranger added resin to the alcohol line. I'm like, oh, gotta figure out how to use it. And one little cup, so that would be like an ounce of each, did the entire panel. You pour it on, you spread it, you let it self-level, did everything. Use a little torch, but yeah, I mean, you can hold it up and just tip it in the light. You'll see all the alloys that like show up, almost like they're just kind of pretty amazing. And the surface is just, it's unbelievable.
That's cool.
The stencil?
Nothing. Yeah, the colors don't move, but I wanted to test everything. I wanted to make sure, will the colors move? Will the lift ink dissolve? Will the archival smear? Will it eat the rub lines? And I'm like, well, one way to find out. You just do it and hope for the best by tomorrow morning. Just wake up and you're like,
So you did the lift ink in through the stencils? Or that's
Yeah.
or you
Stamp and the-
this one's a stamp, and that one's through a stencil. Yeah, so that's, you know, stamping that flourish and lifting it off, and this is a little bit of stencil. I thought I asked for a lifting pad, but I don't even see it, and I don't see anyone that would. Ooh.
Could you have
Let
just
me go
gone
break
with
up
like
the
a
Ranger
dabber
Party.
and with alcohol and just remove the...
Yeah, but it's totally different because it's going to lightly lift. Let me see if they have it.
Okay. It's going.
I was gonna ask him too about that lift.
Yeah.
All right, so I gotta show you guys the funny thing. We're live. We got 1, 2,
I'm live too.
3, 4, 5 with me live.
No, they're not all.
I'll have it now.
Or recorded.
I have one.
I'll have it now in a second.
It was the pause break to try and show.
Oh,
hey, look,
perfect.
guess what?
There we
1,
go.
2, 3.
There we are. So lift ink is an ink that is designed to lift alcohol ink, right? You can use it with a stamp or through a stencil. If you're going to use a stencil, I use lift ink and a blending tool, right? But I'll use a re-inker so I don't have to go on my ink pad. I'll show you just what I mean. So I'm going to grab a stamp. There we go. Oh, I'll do a flourish because we have it. That's cool. It's there.
I'd love to
Yeah,
see
that's
it through
cool,
a stencil
right?
too. If
Oh,
you
I
don't
love
mind.
that.
And then I'll find some type of block. There we go. There's a block. I'm still looking for that original sample that I told you about. Because I'm just thinking as the demo winds down,
You'll find
You're
it
gonna find it.
tomorrow.
of course I'll find it.
It's under the thing that you least expect.
Under the thing that
Oh,
you
somebody's asking if the lift ink will remove the alloys.
It will not. And that's why the lift ink is designed to lift a dye, not a pigment. I will say though that before we had alloys with the mixatives, people wanted to lift them, and so if you have a stamp tool, like a platform or anything like that, you could stamp into it, lift it, stamp it again, lift it, stamp it again, and it will eventually eat through it, but it won't give you the result that you want on the first shot. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. I can't even find my stamp cleaner. This is like a demo that shouldn't happen, but it's gonna happen.
I like it when it's like this. I like it when it's spontaneous, and now I like.
It's real
Prepare.
life. That's how we
It's
all
real
do
life.
it. I mean, we can't find stuff and move stuff, and it's stuck under something.
Because I don't want to cut corners because I don't want you to ruin your stuff. If you have a stamp that has ink on it, you need to clean it. You know me, I'm not a stamp cleaner. But when it comes to lift ink, if you don't want to ruin your lift pad, clean your stamp.
Okay.
Okay? Because this will take anything off too. So I guess some people would say, oh, it's a good stamp cleaner pad. But it's not what it's designed. So I'm just going to use some archival cleaner because that's what's on here. I'll just go in, my trusty little towel, clean that off. Okay. I'm not a fan of stamp cleaners because it leaves that oily residue gross behind it. So I'll then clean it with water. And that will get rid of all the gunk. So now it's a clean stamp. All right. So once we have a stamp, we're going to lift, and we're going to lift off of this one because I think that'd be kind of cool. That little rainbow. That's good. We need a paper towel. I'll use this one. You can tell it's new because where are those? Oh, right behind me. Thank you.
On the chair you're not using.
There you go.
I never do. I'm like, I ordered you a chair. I'm like,
I don't
"Hey,
want it.
It's a nice thing. I like to stand when I make.
It's a paper towel holder.
It is today. The stamp holder earlier.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna lift. So we're just gonna take our lift ink and we're gonna ink up our stamp. Put some nice ink on there. There we go. What I'm gonna actually do, something kind of fun. I think I'll take maybe some specialty paper. I'll do that. Just because you never know.
Have you used them on the panels, the lifting?
That's what I'm gonna use.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
are. Okay, sorry. I thought you-
Absolutely. But this is a panel. But this is a panel. So that's where I started. So this is just, we sell the panels in big sizes.
Oh.
So here's how we're gonna lift. Remember when we do the lifting, we're gonna take this, and I think I'm just gonna go right down the top. Okay? I'm gonna stamp with purpose. Okay. No CPR.
CPR?
No, just stamp the purpose. Make sure you have nice contact. We're going to lift it up. Okay.
Oh.
The ink is now transferred to my stamp. That alcohol ink is now trapped between the stamp and the surface with that lifting. So normally alcohol ink is dry. It's still wet. So if I take a piece of cardstock, I can actually transfer that image to something else. Maybe specialty, maybe watercolor, but now I could stamp in that same rainbow color just by using that. Now we haven't lifted this yet, although it's like, woo, that's cool, we haven't really done it yet. So I need to take something porous. This is not porous, this is, I mean it is, but technically not, it's too soft. I'm just gonna go in and start dabbing that lift ink, and you'll see that it's lifting the ink. And so as we go, look at that paper towel, just get another part, dab, dab, dab. As much as you wanna do this, don't. Okay, your image will just become a blurry mess. Right? We will eventually do that, but right now I'm just dabbing and looking. And as soon as I dab and look and I don't see anything, that means I've lifted off most of the ink. I mean, you can see that the more I'm dabbing, the brighter this is getting. So if you liked that, if you like that first layer, that kind of very subtle look, you could have just stopped. You could have dried it right there. But here I'm just going to keep dabbing. Okay, it's starting to get pretty clean. I mean, just make sure you're using a clean part of the paper towel, or this could be an endless circle. Okay, good. You know what I mean. You're like, oh, it's still in. Like, change the paper towel. All right, now I'm just going to buff off the rest. We'll just dry it with a heat tool, just to make sure it's dry, and we're done. And that's lifted. So could you go over it with resin? Absolutely. So when I did mine, because I wanted it to be more subtle, I dabbed it a little bit, so I got some sort of lifting, and then I dried my lift ink on there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of dabbing it till it was done, I wanted it to be more in the background, so I did my lifting, but you still have to dry the ink. So I went in with my heat tool, and that's what created that effect. But even this, I mean, I work so much with alcohol and lift ink at home that I have a piece of Yupo on a clipboard, and I'll just go in and throw ink on it like this, and that becomes my stamp pad. Does that make sense? So I'll take a piece of Yupo and I'm like, I'll put purple, I'll do whatever, move it around, let it dry, take my lift ink, put my stamp into it, and now I know I'm going to stamp with this beautiful blend. And then when I want it done, I'll just spray alcohol, I'll wipe off my piece of Yupo and throw inks on it again. So I treat it like a stamp pad, if that makes sense. I'm not always worrying about like, ooh, make a background, lift and transfer it. It's like, ooh, I want to stamp in a weird, funky color because this is permanent. So now that I've stamped it, it's a waterproof image because we've stamped with alcohol. But where do you have a waterproof ink like that? And you can stamp, this one's cardstock, but you could stamp that on anything. You could stamp that on fabric, you could have stamped that on watercolor, and it's completely permanent because we stamped in alcohol ink. So a lot of cool stuff. I just think it's really fun to just even changing up your substrate. You know,
Can you explain the process, how you did it with the stencil?
Sure. So a stencil, we would go in.
Love it. I love stencils. I don't stamp. I can't stamp. I have a hard time. But stencils,
come on,
I do.
we can all stamp.
Not like that. I've tried.
So by turning that into your
You'll do good.
ink pad,
It's just flop your head. See?
It's my Beyonce ball.
Yeah, it is. I knew Vicky would have something for it. It's a Beyonce ball. Okay. So when you're going to do lifting, because I'll take that too if they have it.
Right there.
That's for my selfies.
Nobody
You didn't
saw
notice,
that.
right? Nobody saw it.
Nobody saw anything. Nope. Cameras were all turned away.
Because when you do a stencil, really, as much as we're used to taking a blending tool in the ink pad, you don't want to do that. Because once I lift, I now have ink on my foam, and if I go back into my ink pad, I've now transferred the color to my ink pad. So that's where the re-inker comes in. It's the same re-inker to re-ink this, but when I use a stencil, I use my re-inker. So I'll just take a little bit of lifting.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'll put just a dot. That's all you need, and you don't need much at all. And now we can take a blending foam, it could be a brush, it could be anything, and we're going to get some of that lift ink right onto that foam, that tiny little dot. Now we can take our background and we can say, okay, let's lift, I don't know, let's lift some of this florally pattern. Instead of inking the way you think you would want to ink, we don't want to do that. We're just going to pounce lift ink through our stencil, because you would push that ink under your stencil. Because this is going to be fluid, so we're going to dab,
Somebody said if
dab.
only we all had a Ranger stand behind us
That's right.
in our rooms.
I know. So that's what we're getting. We're getting some transfer. So that's why if you went back into your ink pad, it would transfer. But we're going to take this up and we're going to lift it. So we're going to go back to a clean paper towel. I'm totally good. All right. And I'm just going to start lifting. Now I'm going to answer Vicky's question too, because there is a way, if you're very careful, that you can swipe the color off, and I'll show you the difference. Okay?
Is that the same reason you're not rubbing on it?
Right, because we don't want to smear it. Right. As long as, once the lip ink is up, we're good. But that creates more of what it should do, which is designed to ghost, right? That's the whole, we still want color under there. But if you wanted to go to the core, to white, you could take your stencil, and as long as you were aware of kind of what's going on, we can take some of that lift ink, and as long as this is not juiced up, we could still go in, because like your stencil brush would be great because it wouldn't be juicy. So it would be a great way that you could go in with your brush and lift ink and get right up to the edge of that stencil. But if you put a drop of the reinker right on that and went into it, it would just ooze everywhere.
So now, because you have that pigment on your blending tool,
Oh, cool.
so say you want to go onto another card, would you clean that off? Like, can I transfer that purple if I went on a yellow card
Yes.
now? So
Yeah.
what would you do? Get a new foam altogether,
Yeah.
or can you clean the foam?
No, you'd get another foam altogether. But pretty much I have like the same as blending tools. I have one for purples and blues, like warm and cool is really all I
But you
have.
can't clean that because it's alcohol.
Yeah, because it's alcoholic. But do you see the difference in this lift? It's way more intense because I worked it with the foam.
But second generation, instead
Totally.
of going when it's totally wet, you need more like dry brushing.
Well, the longer you apply lift, the more it's going to eat through it, right? So that was the difference between like this one where I just stamped it and lifted lightly to like this full one, which is stamped and like fully lifted because it was wet. But that's how you do it through a stencil, just a re-inker and blending tool. And like, I mean, the effect is just ridiculous because it's done, it's dry, it's part of it. Now we can stamp on top of it, which gives it a whole nother layer. But another thing, like we were just talking about inking and brushes, let's just find another sample that I can't ever find. Story of my life. I showed this on Facebook Live. It seemed to be a big eye-opener. Has nothing to do with alcoholing. Story of my life. But you know, when it comes to art mediums, we have tools for a reason. We have ink brushes, we have blending tools, we have, I mean, totally changes. And if you are a stencil lover, especially a detailed stencil, this is that stencil with a blending tool. Same stencil if you use a brush, okay, to apply your ink. A brush is always going to get you closer to the edge of your stencil than a blending tool. So my lines here, the white space is much fatter because the blending tool, the foam, cannot get close enough to that cut edge. A brush, when we're applying ink, because their bristles get right up to the edge, so you can just see, put it the right way, Holtz. You can,
stencil
much more.
yes,
freaking awesome.
thank you. Doodle art, it's just kind of funky.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, it's a wild stencil. But same thing even with something with lines. Completely different. And that's just from changing the tool. So can you use a blending tool with stencils? Sure. Can you use a brush? Sure. It depends on what you want to get. But if you really want detail, and especially if you're buying a detailed stencil, a brush is really the way to go. But if you're just doing a big, bold background stencil and you want to pick up some pieces, you can totally use a blending tool. So if we were to lift with a brush and lift ink instead of the foam, we would have got this sort of detailed look. Put your brush into it and go for it. You just don't want to trash your ink pad because you saw what happened to the tool.
Right.
And that's exactly what your pad would look like. And once you stain the pad, like Vicky said, and if you were to stamp, you're technically picking up that purple, stamping into the yellow, and it would contaminate.
How
what
come
you
you use
stamped
that
into.
foam and not the felt?
Felt snags on your stencil.
Oh.
So it can't get through your stencil, and it just will sit there and just catch on everything. So
Okay,
that's
makes
why you use
sense.
that. But if you have a brush will work, really.
And could you
It'll
use
hit
that
as
foam
well.
after to like create a new background with
Well,
whatever's
it has
left?
lift ink on it, so
Oh
no.
no. Right.
But if you want to wash your foams, you can. Soap and water, it'll take it off, but yeah, exactly.
So if you use
Just
your
answered your
brush-
own question. So you're like,
And if you use the brush with alcohol ink, how do you clean it?
sanitizer. Yep, hand sanitizer, put a drop of that, put the bristles in, and you're done. It'll come clean, then you can rinse it with water. Yeah. So, fun
Yes.
stuff. Very
I
cool,
love
especially
it.
when you're like looking at all of these different ways that we can work with alcohol inks now. The beautiful richness of an alcohol alloy and how that breaks apart. And let's just be honest. I mean, this.
Beyonce.
Yeah. You know, the fact that we can move color in a different way. I mean, I already gave one of these to Jennifer. I'm like, I can't wait to see what people do with watercolor, right?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait for you to like paint that rainbow of water. And we know as watercolor dries, it likes to go out of the edge. So what happens if you like push that bit of color back across that wet watercolor?
Oh my goodness.
It's just going to give it a different look. So, I mean, something so weird, could still change the everyday of what we do. Like a journal page, you know, you do all your dilution sprays or distress. Before it dries, if you just like hit that color, you're going to get a different blend that we wouldn't get before. I'm not
How
sure.
about like you could blow like glitter and stuff into it?
Somebody was asking, how do you know which colors to use to not make it look like mud?
I don't. I'm very good at mud.
Oh, he loves mud.
Mud is my
Or just
friend.
mud.
Mud is my friend. But what I can tell you about alcohol ink is that it will always replace itself. So if you don't like something, you can put alcohol on it and it's a full do-over. If you're like,
just
I
try it.
absolutely hate the way this looks and I want to change it, you can put it on and change. It's a total redo. You're like, oh, this one, like, ew, I don't really like it. Okay, no problem. Let's put it on. And this was from earlier today. It's just, the party started again. We can just go back. We can add a whole new color to it. We can say, oh, let's add some more alloy. Let's do a little bit of...
Mud is my friend.
Mud is my friend.
I just wanted to.
I do love mud is my friend. There's an alloy, so you're going to see when that hits it, it's like one drop.
What are the other alloys? It's gold and...
We have gilded, which is gold. We have sterling, which is silver.
Oh, I wanted to see.
Mined, which is copper. Statue, which is bronze. And then I have another color called foundry, which is platinum. Foundry is like a silver and a
all the
gold
metals.
kind of party. It's
Can you-
somewhere.
Can
It's
you
under...
put some silver as well? I'm
under
very curious how
something.
it looks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
moss.
I'll do that. So let's move this. Who did this? It's just like home, right? It doesn't matter how much space you have, you're going to work in this little pie. All right, let's just move this around.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's Beyonce. I can tell by you.
Yeah, but see, I'm like, I can actually take that blue and bring it over here, right? I can push that, move that over here.
Well, I have a place
I can move that over here. I can bring this to the edge. But see that line that I'm getting right there with the alloy? All right, now I don't like this. I don't like that sludge right there, so I'm just going to break it up. And you said you wanted some sterling in
Yeah, I
there?
just want to see how it looks.
No problem.
Picky.
It's going to be a lot of
we already
metallic
did
though.
gold.
All I'm saying is
We
going to be a
did
lot of
gold
metallic
already. I
going on
wanted
here.
silver. Oh, nice.
I like silver better too.
No,
in
actually, I
some
prefer
blue.
gold, but he already did.
We're going to throw
I'm
some
a
in.
silver girl.
So we're going to throw that in. Let's see what happens when we have...
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Hard to see. I need to like get close.
And this is another reason why I like to work on the media mat, because of that glass. I can just, if there's sludge, I can just push it off the edge. See, you take that sludge and, but I'm trying to keep that silver and gold busted up. Look at that. Yeah, you can just keep moving this around. Add a little bit of monsoon. Create kind of that deeper undertone.
Is this a wood or is it more hardwood?
It's wood. Yeah, the hardcore panels are actually a compressed wood laminated with vinyl. Yeah. So see that alloy when you blow on it? It
Oh.
just sparkles.
Hard to see on camera. Oh, you're getting it.
You getting it? It's like magic. Magic.
I love it.
Yeah. And it just kind of sizzles. But alloys are designed to do this. They just have this attraction that just they want to go back together. And you'll see as this starts to sizzle, these little puddles of metallic are just going to get bigger because all that metallic that's there, that's the alloy. It just wants to like come back together. Where a mixative wants to stay mixed. It just wants to mix in with the ink. So that's pretty cool. Totally changed from that green, brown, whatever. Now it gave it a whole party. If you hate it, alcohol, total do-over. And if you like where things are, like sometimes I'll look at a background and you're like, you know what? I just dig it exactly the way it is. I don't want to change it. I don't want it to blend anymore. Remember, you can always dry the inks. And that's just gonna, I mean, Besides, it's going to smell wonderful.
Yeah. So to
it-
say, there's a lot of smells coming over
Yeah,
here.
it's delightful. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. And you're gonna leave. It's like it's the best day ever, Creativation. It's like, yeah, it's the ink talking. Yeah, that's all right. But I love the effects. You see how we're able to just freeze it, because I do think that, you know, when this dries, it just has such a beautiful, beautiful look to it. Yeah, look at that.
It's like a geode.
Yeah, and that metallic just sits on there. So cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like almost a
Oh,
galaxy.
she took off.
Yeah, just awesome. And then of course if you put glaze over the top of it, that's going to change it even more. So when you start adding, you know, resin or anything over the top of it, it just to me, yeah, it's so cool. And I've never worked with resin before because it frightens me. I'm like, I've got to mix equal parts and it's like stripping every minutes and don't have air bubbles and use a torch and I'm like,
Very cool. Like
and
the
then,
silver.
you know, you go on YouTube and you realize like you can use a heat tool instead of a torch because it's still hot enough that it will pop the bubbles and it self-levels, so you don't have to spread it out perfectly. You know, you just get it to the edge. It's all you need to do is get it to the edge, and that's it. Even if there's a big pile in the middle, it will make its way. But if you don't pull it to the edge, it won't fill in that gap.
So this part here, you actually splattered
I did. Yeah.
the alloy.
No, this is just mushroom.
Oh, that's mushroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you want a
It looks-
splat box for that.
A what?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
splat box, yeah, because, you know, splattering alcohol ink is not fun. Yeah. But it's, when you just start playing with it, it's,
I don't know.
I know. It's wild and it's all,
And you stamp, this is just regular archival
it
ink?
is, yep.
Very
And so this is first generation, second generation, third generation. So you can see how the black just gets more intense. And again, this was merely a test piece. This was not my finished project.
Well,
I just sat down, I'm like,
let's hope all our pieces.
that's what it was. I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to get a panel. I'm just going to see how the blower is. I'm going to take some of the alloys. Let me see about lifting. Oh, let me see first, second, third, archival. Put some rub-ons, and I'm just going to cover it with resin and see like what it eats up. And then when it was done, I'm like, we're good. Project finished. You ever had? It doesn't happen often, right? We have to admit, like, usually it doesn't happen, but sometimes you get that happy accident where you're like, oh my God. Especially because it was the next day thing. When I was working on it, it was just a sample. But then the next day when I walked in, I'm like, well, look at me. I'm an artist. Remember we all had that? That's exactly that moment I had. Like,
You totally have to look at it the next
like,
day.
it was the next day thing.
You
Because
have
that
to.
night it was still a sample. Even Mario's like, that's cool. I'm like, dude, like, it's got splashes over there. Like, it's a hot mess, but it'll be okay. And then the next day I'm like, huh. Look at me. I'm gonna film that thing. And then I was like, I'm done. I'm at a deadline. My project for the show is done. But
What color is this?
91% or higher isopropyl. Yeah, so it can't just
when
be.
you need to use this one instead.
You always want to use it because it's going to contain the resin. So you can shake on a little bit and that's enough, right? But blending solution is designed to blend versus thin the color. So let me find another Yupo.
Good luck.
Good
What color
luck.
is this, Tim?
Monsoon. Yeah, this one. Yep. So if I take a little bit of isopropyl, I'll take some Monsoon, and we'll just take the blower and we're just going to move this one color. Okay. So right there, just pretty crazy how this just thins out that color, right? And we're able again just to control the way this ink works. So this is one color, but you'll see that we're going to start getting some funny undertones. You see that pink showing up?
Oh,
See that right there? Yep. That's from isopropyl. This breaks down the color. It's not designed to blend, it really breaks down the color, which is cool for what we want to do. Blending solution is actually just going to blend the color. It's designed to blend, lighten, or remove, and it has resin in it, and what that does is that's just going to keep my color just moving. More consistent, right? And a whole different effect. And because it's blending solution, it also dries much quicker. So you can see that this is just done, right? Because it just blended my colors a little bit over here. But the isopropyl, it's a totally different vibe of that kept my color with its integrity. This changed the color. So when to use what? Well, it just depends on what you want to do. If you really want your colors to float and play, it's good. Or you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of this. So it's just another ingredient really to mix. But blending solution maintains its color integrity, but it's also the resin if you use an alloy. So if you use alloy, you still need to use some of that to bond that metallic, right? Even like, I'm just throwing a little bit of this. Oh, wait,
Still gonna play on it. Okay.
So I'll throw some blending solution on that. You can use it the same. Gonna take an alloy. Wish we could do half a drop, but we can't. Again, some monsoon.
I was asking, is there any new pearl colors for 2020?
There are no new pearls.
Okay.
Not right now. Yeah, because the ink line, it's the same machine that fills stuff. It was like, what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I really want these metallics, but new pearls are definitely something that will happen.
Okay.
So did you see the difference when I just threw on that isopropyl? How it just took that alloy and just blew it up? So the more you play with these, the more you'll know like when you want to use what. Just depends on the look that you're going for. There isn't a right or wrong.
Is that Yupo then?
This is Yupo. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which is why a lot of alcohol ink artists are using this, and they're even taking it and pre-mixing it in cups. So if you're doing bigger things, you can take a little cup.
Cups. What are they for?
And well, that's for resin. But you just take any cup. You take a little plastic cup, put in some color, put in some of that, mix it, and then actually pour it on your Yupo, and that will allow you to cover a really large area at one time. You're not like dripping on a little bit. But see, just playing with that one color. We still haven't changed the color. It's still monsoon, but we get so much depth between that and then using that statue. I love that color. It's cool. And you can see it's still wet. It's just awesome.
Somebody's asking what's special about the Yupo paper.
It's synthetic. It's plastic. That's what's special. The fact that it's a plastic paper allows your inks to actually stay on top of it and not permeate through it. It is a piece of plastic, but it acts just like paper. So you can stamp on it, watercolor on it, markers on it, anything because it's paper. So, but it is plastic. You can create stencils with it. Don't tell Stampers Anonymous. Yeah, because you can die cut it because it's paper. It's plastic, but it thinks it's paper. So you can use your any of your die cuts and actually use your thin dies and cut through it. So it's not like using a piece of acetate. It just has a, that's pretty awesome.
Oh, when are the alloys coming to be in stores? They want
all of this is shipping in February. All the new Ranger stuff, which is really, what, next week?
Yeah,
in 2 weeks.
Feels like it though, doesn't
I
it?
know, right? Yeah, just in a couple weeks. So that was it. It's fun. I'm going to clean up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you. We know your day's over and you're like, I'm out of here.
It's all right, yeah. Got dinner planned. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for
where are
watching.
you going for dinner?
I don't know yet. That's what they don't tell me. They're like, we're not telling you, Tim, because you'll tell everybody.
Yeah. The whole entire show will show up for dinner.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm part of this.
you.
You're going to tell the wrong restaurant just to fake everybody out.
That's right.
Well, last time we were right beside you. We were right behind us. And I'm like, well, look, I'm having dinner
All
with
right,
Tim.
so that was kind of a fun little thing. We started out with Dyan, we ended with Tim. We're in the Ranger booth, and the show is officially over. There's people everywhere. And just to kind of show you who is here, just to kind of give you a little, whoops, I was flipping back and forth, I'm so sorry. All right, so just to kind of give you links, Karen is here, here's Karen Tamir, and for a while, even Vicky Bouton showed up, and oh, there's Maria. Everybody's starting to kind of clean up. Everybody's like, get out, get out, get out. Hey, do a wave high. Say everybody wave high. All right, so thank you everybody today for showing up and watching all my live streams. I haven't done any record videos today. That's kind of crazy because I was demoing and stuff, but I did a lot of lives for you, and hopefully you enjoyed them. We will be back tomorrow. It'll be recorded. It's recorded. You guys can catch it here in a second. So I will be live tomorrow doing some more stuff. I am doing a lot of demos tomorrow, so there'll be a lot less lives. I will do as much as I can, and maybe there might be one more tonight at some fun events I go to. So thank you everybody for stopping by and checking out Ranger's booth. This is where I was today. I mean, you just saw the Tim Holtz ideology, but this is what we just did. He's packing up and getting everything done. All right. Bye everybody.